Salute Knicks Nation. The season is done as the New York Knicks lose Game 6 in Indiana on a frustrating finish. Lots to talk about, to break down. But first and foremost, what a ride, man. It was a hell of a run. The New York Knicks have lost a golden opportunity to get to the NBA Finals, but it doesn't take away from the achievement of the run that the Knicks made to get here. However, just really, really disappointing way to finish. Obviously, anytime the season gets done, there is a lot of emotions, a lot of things to ponder and look at, and the organization will do that. We'll dust ourselves off. We'll come back bigger, stronger, and better next year. Lots to talk about in this one, but tonight specifically, the Knicks were self-inflicted wounds, turnovers, killing the Knicks, giving Indiana so many second chance points, and they fought. They were in the game at halftime, only down 4, and I thought this one was going to be a close finish, but it was the start of the third quarter, which was just poor opportunity to come out, you know, and put in that effort at the start of the third was the killer in this one. But got to give credit to Indiana. Congrats on the NBA Finals for the first time since 2000. Oklahoma's going to be heavy favorites, but we've got so much to think about and talk about, guys. Appreciate you. And we've got to start with thanking everybody for coming along with this ride. Knicks Nation, man, was rocking out heavy in this one. In this postseason, and we'll be doing heaps of content, man. We'll be taking not much of a break, man. We'll be getting into the NBA draft stuff because I love NBA draft. Plenty of off-season coverage, content, so don't you worry. But obviously a lot of moving parts, I feel, that are going to happen. Some inconsistent performances all throughout the playoffs, from the coach to some of the players, some major players as well. We'll have plenty of time to talk about them later tonight as well as moving forward. However, I really feel like tonight, man, it was an opportunity for a lot of guys to step up, bring this back to New York for a Game 7. But I feel like a lot of what the Knicks did just helped Indiana. You know, boneheaded plays, decisions from Tibbs. Hart was awful tonight. Cat struggled, missed free throws. Brunson didn't look himself either, and I think he was gassed out. It was the end of the road, man. I think where we lost this series is obviously Game 1. You know, everything was going according to script with home court. You give up home court in Game 1, and that's the Knicks were never able to recover, despite their fight, the grit to extend this series and get it to a 6. I thought the Knicks had a good chance tonight at halftime to force a 7, but Indiana just said, no, our season is on the brink. We have to win this third quarter, and that's exactly what Indiana did. Tibbs made a lot of questionable decisions. Some guys stepped up in these playoffs as well. It's not going to be all negative. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson. But a game-swinging play tonight. Deuce McBride was called for an out of bounds. That was a 6-point swing. You guys know what I'm talking about. As Deuce hit that big 3, and then Indiana hit a 3 the other way, but Deuce didn't step out of bounds. He got inbound right before catching the ball, and that was a call that went against the Knicks tonight. But the Knicks lost it themselves. They did get a couple of nice calls, but all in all, 108 to 125. I think this one wasn't close. That's the most disappointing thing. They actually had a lot of momentum plays in the first half, and they did well to stem that sort of early pressure. But it became too much in the third quarter. Too many turnovers, not enough offense from other guys tonight. As Jose G's insight says, 34 points off 17 turnovers. Yeah, 100% fam. That was the killer. We'll bring up the box score later and talk about the guys and we'll do a little deep dive in terms of what the offseason may hold for some of these guys. But 17 turnovers, man. We knew you can't turn the ball over at home. You know, You need to protect the ball like your family jewels to actually win this game. And yeah, the Pacers out hustled us, man. 9 blocks, 10 steals apiece, but they had 30 assists. The Knicks won the rebounding. Initially, before the game began, I thought Thibodeau's decision to start Mitch was the wrong decision. I know it worked in Game 5, but that's at MSG. It didn't work in Game 4 in Indiana. It's not going to work in Indiana when they push the pace. I talked about it in my preview last post-game as well. I thought that Mitch shouldn't have started tonight, and Indiana, it played into their hands because they ran, you know. And yeah, Mitch got a lot of offensive rebounds. You know, he was great doing his role, being a star in his role. But ultimately, it was tough to keep up with the speed and the pace. Great to see you in the building, Chris, Drew Reviews, Johnny, M. Jean, Philip, Chris Gotti, and we've got Dish Dash, Angel, Daniel, what's up, Peter, Paula, Jose's, let's go, Rye. Paula, great to see you. Lots to talk about, but obviously the season is done now. What a run, man. Eastern Conference Finals, but you obviously got to be heartbroken because the opportunity for the New York Knicks, our organization, to get to the finals for the first time since '99, it hurts, but I kind of feel like it was building up to this after losing Game 1. They didn't come back and win Game 2, and that was ultimately the killer. You know, to lose first 2 games on your home floor in this competitive series was tough. You know, you're always coming from behind. And ultimately, I think Thibodeau was outcoached. So congrats to Carlisle. As frustrating as it was a pretty even series. The Knicks could have easily been headed back to MSG to wrap the series up if they had just won Game 2. If they had won Game 1 and Game 2, the series would have been over already. The series would have been over in Game 5. So much to learn from. Disappointing how rattled some guys look tonight, though. Josh Hart just has been playing some of his worst basketball. So questions have to be asked in the off-season. Thibodeau's usage, though, of Josh Hart. I'm not here to protect Hart. However, I do think it always starts with Thibodeau for me, because you put these players in position to fail or succeed. And we all know Josh Hart's strengths, weaknesses, spots where he's good at, and areas where you need to limit his minutes. And Thibodeau just continues to ride and die on the Josh Hart Island, as the New York Knicks were within touch all the way up until the third, made a couple of runs. I said the Deuce McBride swing call could have actually got the Knicks really in it, but the defense wasn't great tonight. They just kept allowing Indiana to get an easy transition basket. I think the Knicks ran out of legs, man. These players want to win badly. They put forth their effort, but also IQ let them down. I think they've got a lot of IQ problems with this roster. Boneheaded plays, continue to make the same mistakes. Cat drop coverage, Hart throwing the ball around. Thibodeau preaches take care of the ball, but when players are tired and they're in a funk, you have to make that switch up, fam. So I'm a glass half full person, and obviously I think the season has come down to an unbelievable missed opportunity, and you got to be heartbroken, like I said. But to reach Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, obviously you can put context to it now. To lose to Indiana is a failure, but to get to the Eastern Conference Finals is obviously, I think, met the minimum expectation, I think, of the front office and the fan base, but missed a great opportunity, man. I don't think they would have beaten the Oklahoma City Thunder, but you just never know. You never know what happens. You know, you got to be in it to win it. Jalen Brunson, a real letdown tonight. I think he was tired, gassed, really uncharacteristic turnovers. The pressure got to him as well. One of his worst performances in the playoffs. But first half, it it started brightly. It just flipped so quickly, man. Philip says Mitch didn't seem to play much in the second half. Yeah, that's Thibodeau going back to Hart. He's trying to fool everybody by starting Mitch, but playing Hart the same amount of minutes. It's crazy. Plus, he did rock with DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet. I think a little bit too much. That third quarter, I don't know what he was doing. You needed to get Brunson back in there early. Angel says we blew it, even with the refs' help. The 17 turnovers and the missed free throws was the killer in this one. Missed free throws has just been crazy, man, all season. So disappointing, man. Angel says undisciplined and sloppy. Dish Dash says game 1 was the series right here. Yeah, in a nutshell, man. 100%. M. Jean says, will I be doing live stream during the off season? 100%. 100%. Great to have you with us, and definitely rock out with us throughout the off season. Smash the like button. Subscribe, replay gang. Let us know in the comments how you feel. Was this season a success to you? I would like you to put context to it, because obviously if we had said before the season began, if we made the Eastern Conference Finals and we beat Boston in the second round, most people would have said, okay, that's not a failure. But obviously get to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose to an Indiana squad and blow game 1, game 2. I gotta be truthful, man. I gotta call it like I see it and keep it a buck. I think that element is a failure on the organization, because Thibodeau had this team in a position, pushed some right buttons in the Boston series, but obviously Boston did help us out with Joe Mazzulla being very stubborn to adjust and do those kinds of things. And so, yeah, I think the coach, I would love to see a coaching change and a switch up. And I will talk about that throughout the off season. Just give us 1 second. Clean up some of the trolls in the chat. Yeah, it is what it is, man. Nick's always got some haters out here. The drought continues for the organization, getting to the finals. Obviously, 50 years since that championship. But we're building. I think we're building in that right direction. I think we just need to really make some corrections, right? I'm going to use the word corrections a lot in the offseason, because there's so many things that are glaringly weak for the organization that need to be corrected. Not fixed, not adjusted, corrected. And one of those things is to make a coaching change. Thought Leon Rose pulled off some great moves in the offseason, and I think the evidence is there. We overachieved in a lot of people's eyes. So I think, the Mikal Bridges move was obviously a move that addressed a need. 5 first-round picks has proven to be an overpay. But I still think Mikal Bridges is somebody that can be part of the solution. He's not part of the problem. He can be part of the solution. You obviously overpaid. You can't get back those picks now. But let's see. There'll be some heavy trade discussions, negotiations throughout the offseason, man. There'll be some big names available. And obviously nobody should be off limits, in my opinion, outside of Jalen Brunson. That's how I feel right now. There's no right, wrong way to feel as a fan. You're welcome to feel how you do. A lot of guys showed us some fight and grit throughout the season. There was ups, there was downs, but ultimately you got to judge on how consistent players have been. I think the coach has been more down than up. A lot of players have been inconsistent as well, but Tibbs' usage. And we'll see how it all plays out, fam, as well. So yeah, anyone in the chat trolling is just going to get blocked and be out of here. We're here to have a proper discussion about the Knicks season, off season that awaits. Not so much about tonight. I mean, congrats to Indiana. They played how they needed to play at home. If this thing was to go 7, the Knicks were going to handle their business at home as well. That's how a series will swing. The Knicks let it go, man. In game 1 and game 2, that was the killer tonight. I like what I saw from OG Anunoby, 10 of 18. I thought he's been one of our more consistent postseason performers. Mitchell Robinson has as well. Obviously, you got to put Brunson in the category. I thought Miles McBride, down night to night, but he's been one of the more consistent players in the off-season. And Thibodeau using some of the bench guys late, DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet. Those guys should have been playing a lot earlier. Where we lose the series, you see Josh Hart up and down like a yo-yo, mostly down. Mikal Bridges, really highs and real lows throughout the off-season as well, avoiding foul contact, but hitting some heroic shots, getting some heroic stops against Boston. I don't think he's untradeable. But at the end of the day, we'll see how Tibbs uses these guys, or the coach in the future uses these guys. I'm going to have to speculate now because the season's over. I'm leaning towards Thibodeau's not going to be back. That's not based on anything I've seen or read, just my hunch. But yeah, let's shout you guys out. How you feeling right now? Kevin, appreciate you. Thanks for rocking with us throughout the season. Everybody in the building. Rye says, who do we want as a head coach? You know, I don't really have the name for you now. We're going to have lots of time to talk about it, and we'll be doing some off-season live streams, Q&As. But right now, I want somebody that isn't a big name. You know, that might sound funny to some people, but I want somebody that's just going to roll their sleeves up, somebody who's earned their stripes but is ready to ascend. You know, get us a young, up-and-coming go-getter, a player that's going to be a great player motivator, a player that is data-driven as well. You know, can look at lineups, make good adjustments. You know, and they'll obviously get more experience. The reason I feel that way, and I've said this before, every time we bring in a big name, they just seem to be stubborn in their ways. Phil Jackson, Tom Thibodeau. Every time you bring in a pedigree guy with old school, you know, mindset, usually, yeah, they might have some winning pedigree, of course, but usually I find that they're very stubborn in their ways. They're very stubborn in trying to adjust away from those things if they ain't working. I need a guy that's adaptable, you know. And look, a great example, you know, of anti-stubbornness is Popovich. You know, he's not afraid to bench a big name. You know, Tim Duncan ain't doing it. You know, sit on the bench, old fella. Thibodeau just won't do that. You know, Cat Hart killing us in moments, absolutely just watching our season go down the drain. And Thibodeau just continues to play those guys. You know, maybe he's feeling the pressure. I get it. A guy like Popovich has free reign. You know, he ain't going to be let go by the organization. The buck stops with Popovich. But with Thibodeau, he's on thin ice because, you know, Leon made these moves. And if he benches Cat, benches Hart, he probably feels like he's going to be under more pressure. But we don't need that. We need a guy that's adaptable, not afraid to make big decisions, has the full faith and trust in the front office. Eddie says that's the GM's job, to find the right coach. Leon is in the hot seat right now after Tibbs is let go. Yeah, it's a case I feel like Dolan is capable of doing anything. I do think Leon Rose is more safe than Tibbs. I think the first adjustment, or correction, sorry, is to fire Tibbs. You know? Eddie says, man, at this point, just let Rick Brunson coach us and get rid of Tibbs. Yeah, how long do you feel like it's going to be? I feel like Tibbs is gone. I feel like it's not going to take long. I feel like it's going to be maybe a week, 2 weeks, if that. I don't think they're going to wait. You've got the draft coming up. You obviously need clarity with the front office and the philosophy moving forward with guys. But also, we're trying to still be an attractive destination for some of these big names that might request a trade. We'll talk about them. We all know who they are: Giannis, Kevin Durant, maybe some other guys come out, ask out. But at the end of the day, Thibodeau was voted by the players as the least desirable coach. So that could be a major factor as well. And on the flip side, the faith that Jalen Brunson has, Hart, some of the leaders in the squad, they're going to feel a certain way. You know, they're going to feel a certain way about Thibodeau possibly being let go. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a results-driven business, and you have to be ruthless, you know. By the way, Thibodeau's going to get a handsome payout if he gets let go because he signed an extension, and obviously Dolan's not going to be happy about that. But if you have to make that change, you got to do it. But yeah, the heat will turn onto Leon Rose because you extended the coach only for 1 year later to have to fire him. You have to answer to a lot of questions from James Dolan if you extended the coach and then you have to let him go. So we'll see how that all plays out. Obviously, that's going to be the hot topic for everyone, man. We blew this series, I think, via coaching. Because players, you know, they're going to play. There's ups, there's downs, there's frustrations from Hearts, Cats, all of that. But at the end of the day, Thibodeau coached a losing series from the beginning, man. Too late to adjust, too slow. I mean, we beat Boston. That's obviously one of our best achievements in many, many years, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. But you always have to be realistic. You have to look at the context. You know, we're trying to win a chip. We're not just trying to get to the third round. Angel says, I think we'll get whoever Giannis wants to be the coach. It's going to be interesting because they'll get lots of offers. I don't know if the Knicks can trump all the offers, but if you're talking about Cat have to being central in that trade, I don't know how Milwaukee's going to feel about that. But the Knicks can add picks. They might be able to send Mikal Bridges. They might not. I feel like Mitchell Robinson's trade value has definitely gone up. I would keep Mitch personally. But obviously, I think he's going to be in demand, and his salary is very trade friendly. I think the Lakers will be trying to move heaven and earth to get a center. But for me, I keep Mitch right now. But obviously, if you're trading Cat, Mitch is important. If you keep Cat, he's super important anyways. But he's even more important if you keep Cat. If Cat's no longer here, you could still look at other options as well, but I would keep Mitch. I think he had a fantastic postseason. 4 of 5 tonight from the field, 5 offensive rebounds, +8. Has his limitations, we know. He has to work on those free throws, man. Elliot says, we made the ECF for the first time in 25. I think we should just run it back. So Elliot's locked in. Appreciate you, Elliot, rocking out with us. I see you locked in. Yeah, you know, I grew attached to this squad throughout this postseason run, man. I thought we could get to the finals. I thought there was guys deserving of more minutes, guys that should have been playing less minutes. There's a case to be made for running it back, most definitely, but with a different coach, of course. You know, Karl Anthony Towns together with Jalen Brunson making history. We have made history this postseason in many ways, but obviously you got to get to the top of the mountain. You got to look at who's there and how can we beat them. That should be the benchmark. But Cat, Brunson, 20 plus points, 5 games running. Yeah, 5 games running because Brunson only finished with 19 points. Otherwise, it would have been 6 games. How ironic is that? So the streak ends at 5 games of the conference finals, consecutive 20-point games from the duo since Kobe and Shaq as well. So do you break that up? Do you build around those two? Try to get some more wing defenders up in here some more steady ball handlers I'm looking at. Kolek, give him heavy consideration. Thank you for your service, Cameron Payne, but we need to move in another direction. But thank you once again. You really did help us along the way. He'll get another contract in the league somewhere. It's time to prioritize the future. Tyler Kolek, step on up. See what you can do in Summer League. We'll be locked in for Summer League, no doubt. Huck Porty, Dardier, Kevin McCullough, whoever else the Knicks draft and bring in. But man, I feel for the legends. Clyde, we're not going to get no Game 7 with the alumni in the house. But we didn't deserve it. Let's be real. We didn't deserve to bring this back to a Game 7. First half, yes, tonight. Second half, let go of the rope, man. Indiana's ball pressure was crazy, but very inconsistent officiating, you know. In terms of, I know the Knicks can get some favorable calls and we certainly get some bad calls, but just the lack of consistency from the referees. The players don't know what's contact. Hart gets smashed in the face, no flagrant. And then throughout the season, he accidentally kicks somebody. And it's an ejection. It's crazy, man. How can Hart get smashed in the face? Not even be a flagrant one. Remember Scott Foster threw him out in Chicago just for accidentally kicking somebody. Also, what a season from the captain. 10 plus games in the playoffs. Only 4 guys, Michael, LeBron, and Shea, together with Jalen Brunson. 30 plus 5 assist games in 10 plus postseason run. He's proven, man, he can be the 1A. That's the most positive takeaway in the season, guys. Obviously, hopefully, we can see a coaching adjustment, correction, and a change. But Brunson is a 1A. I think you can build around him. I think you need some more shooting. Mikal Bridges didn't do it for me with the shooting this season. OG's proven that he's worth his $40 million contract. You know, he's been shooting it well throughout the season. Defense is as advertised. Mitch as advertised. Cat up and down like a yo-yo. But his highs are super high. So you can definitely make the case for Towns' impact. But Brunson, you got to get him some more help. He's entering his prime right now, 29 to start next season. And JB will be have a chip on his shoulder, hoping to get back to this situation again and advance. Right, we have to capitalize next season, guys, because no Jason Tatum. The Pacers are going to be right there. The Bucks will trade Giannis, so they'll fall down even further. It'll be the Knicks, Pacers, Cavs. No disrespect to anybody else, but I can't see anyone else making a major leap. Maybe Detroit could get the 4th seed, 5th seed again. Orlando, possibly, but outside of that, it's a drop-off. ATL, Brooklyn, Chicago, Hornets. You know, it's going to be a tank fest out east, and we've got to capitalize, fam. But what a missed opportunity. Freeway Hustler says Brunson didn't really play well the whole postseason. Yeah, I think the way we play, again, I'm not a fan of the way Thibodeau runs the offense. Yeah, I think it wears Brunson down. I think what we saw Game 5 was awesome, man, with Brunson off ball. Do that a lot more, man. Maybe we can see a better Mikal Bridges. Like, I'm not ready to completely quit on Mikal Bridges. I'm certainly not buying stock, but I'm not really ready to sell because, you know, a new coach could get some more out of him, reduce the minutes, maybe run some plays for Mikal to get downhill. But definitely keep Miles McBride. Josh Hart's spot in the starting 5 needs to be replaced. I love Josh Hart, but he has limitations that we all know. He needs to come off the bench next season, no doubt about it. You know, we see Mikal's pressure early in Game 5. That helped us, courtesy of Tim Legler here. showed us the adjustment Thibodeau made, but too little too late. Games 1, 2, and 3 and 4, Mikal Bridges was all the way back. Game 5, he upped the full court pressure, helped slow Halliburton down. They did make a good adjustment tonight with Halliburton basically, pushing the ball up in the inbounds and the double drag screen setting to get Halliburton downhill. But yeah, I think we need some more ball handling, some shooting above the break. Mikal Bridges, I would ideally love to have him off the bench as well, but with the salary he's going to be owed, you're going to be limited to be able to upgrade that starting spot unless you just rock with Deuce McBride. But that's one of the reasons I want Tibbs gone, man. He just doesn't like to see Deuce McBride in the starting five, for whatever reason. He talks about size and rebounding. But again, the Josh Hart floor spacing element has just been the killer all season, right? You're taking one step forward to take 2 steps back. When you get a Karl Anthony Towns, the idea is that, we're a stretch 5. We can shoot it. We got the floor spaced out for Brunson and Mikal to do some things. But having Josh Hart out there just kills that. It kills the concept. M. Jean says Mikal robbed the Knicks. A lot of people are down. I know a lot of people selling Mikal Bridges stock, but for me, I got to see what we look like with a new coach. And look, let's keep it a buck with Brunson here and the Villanova squad. I think Bridges will probably be back. If it comes down to he's open to a move and Giannis Antetokounmpo trade is possible, then you obviously pull the trigger. But outside of that, I don't know what other move can come to fruition with to include a Mikal. You're just going to have to suck it up. The 5 first-round picks, we lost on that one, man. But it doesn't mean a Mikal can't be a helpful player. I think he can still be part of the solution. Players that are part of the problem and how they're being used, I think, is Josh Hart. And I do think Karl Anthony Towns at times, how he's been used defensively. We just weren't able to recover, man, all season. I know how good Cat's been offensively at times, but if we were just more stable, like if you swapped Cat's defense for Isaiah Hartenstein's defense, we might have beaten Indiana, but we might not have beaten Boston. So it's about styles. Styles make fights. It's crazy, but obviously the Pacers are a better coach team, even more than the Celtics. I think Rick Carlisle is better than Joe Mazzulla. He's better than Tom Thibodeau. And no coincidence, fam, that Indiana are the team that advances to the NBA Finals, man, against everybody's predictions. What a frustrating game in this one. But we had Game 5, that was the height. Game 4 and 6 against Boston. The closeout game against Detroit. But a lot of things to learn from, man. I think we need to prioritize some of our rookies as well. So yeah, in terms of picks, Rye Bread, we do have some picks we can trade. We can do some pick swaps as well. We can't trade more than, I think, 2 first-rounders. But we can definitely trade 1 or 2 for this summer. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I think Leon Rose will have to get aggressive again. Because some of these moves haven't worked out. Some have. The Bridges thing hasn't worked out so far. I think the Cat move was fine because look at Julius, look at Dante's struggles in the playoffs. Look how far we got. It has helped us get further. But obviously if you can get a Giannis, and it involves a Cat going back in the deal, I think you have to definitely look at that. Calvinist says, move Cat and Hart. It's going to be, Leon Rose is definitely going to have to prove some people wrong if he's to trade a Hart, because a lot of people feel like that core just can't be broken up with Brunson and Hart. and Mikal. He traded Dante, so he's done it once. We'll see. But obviously, success, we're trying to get to the top and we're trying to win that chip. And so you have to look at what's available out there. I think Kevin Durant would be interested in coming to the Knicks. We have heard from players, from reporters, that some big name players would be keen to come to the Mecca, especially we are like, one piece away. I think this is proven we are definitely one piece away, maybe even one role player. I was texting my mate that, a lockdown defender could have been the difference to actually winning this whole thing. And so, Angel, great question. What's a realistic off-season move? My realistic off-season move so far is to see if you can pull off that, the another star, and you can pair next to either JB and Mikal or JB and Cat. So either one trade is going to involve Mikal going out, or one trade is going to involve Karl Anthony Towns going out, and so you can finally form ideally a big three. But a realistic move would be to go get a real gritty wing defender with size. They might not be as expensive. See if you can get a Herb Jones. See if you can get a Tari Eason. Because I think every championship squad has a real gritty perimeter defender. I think Neesmith showed that he could do that for Indiana. You obviously have Alex Caruso doing that, the dirty work for OKC. That was a great pickup. So, we might not need to go for the home run. For those that don't want to break up the core, I feel you. But maybe you can start by looking at some of these wing defenders out here, because Mikal Bridges hasn't really been it, is the point of attack. Yeah, our defense crumbles, with the drop coverage with Cat. But if you can fortify the perimeter defense, that'll give you a chance. That'll give you a chance, especially if you keep Mitch. Emmanuel says, oh, and let Precious go too. Yeah, I feel like Precious will probably be gone as well. Elliot agrees. I don't think Precious will be back. Rye says, I'd go to the NBA stats, find whoever irritates Halliburton the most, and give that guy a max. Yeah, we need our Alex Caruso version, man. I think he's really tilted the scales for OKC. Like I said, you just need a player that's a star in their role. You don't just need a star. But I do have serious question marks over Karl Anthony Towns still. But I think him and Brunson together have proven that they can dominate. So, you can still build around those guys. But building around JB, Mikal, and Cat, I think there's too much money. There's too much money in those three guys tied up. Maybe you trade a Josh Hart. He's 18 million. That might become a real possibility, guys. Precious is 6 million. That'll relieve some money as well. You could sign and trade PJ Tucker as well in a deal if you need to make more salary. Remember, we gave PJ Tucker a 2-year deal. The second year is a team option, so we can decline the team option, maybe sign and trade. So yeah, I think game 1 was definitely a choke. Nobody's kidding ourselves about that. But at the end of the day, I don't think that happens with a different coach. Me personally, the players, definitely need to shoulder the blame. But the coach didn't make enough, changes when Neesmith was making that run. You can't blow an 8-point lead with 50-something seconds remaining. You take away everything but the three. But Tibbs still had the bigs out there. He still had lineups that were susceptible to give up the three. Yeah, Calvinist says Giannis can get revenge on Hallie and his dad with the Knicks. I like that. I like that. Great comment. You guys are buzzing. I see some no to KD. Eddie says, especially with this coach, He'll have KD standing in the corner all game long. That's what needs to change first, though, Eddie. The coach. The coach needs to go, and I think he will. I think it'll be a matter of a week, maybe 2. What day is the draft, fam? The draft is around normally June 20. So we've got 3 weeks before the NBA draft hits. Now, they might keep Thibodeau around in terms of the organization. Maybe they'll figure out a role, but maybe he needs to just step upstairs somehow and become kind of a chief scout, whatever it is. If Leon wants to keep him around, I mean, they're going to have to pay him anyway. That's the issue for Leon Rose, man. You extended Thibodeau too early, and now Dolan is going to have to pay a 4-year contract out. He's not going to like that. Yeah, OG's lockdown, but OG's preferred defensive role, I think, is guarding on the weak side, so that he can come over and help. David says, tough loss. CT, we really blew it with games 1 and 2. That's 100% the reason, man. Not tonight. Not game 4. Games 1 and 2. I believe that. The game would have just gone according to script. I mean, the series, sorry. If the Knicks had just taken care of business, games 1 and 2. Even winning game 2, because we made up for that by winning game 3 in New York. We need in our Indy. We just needed to win game 2. In New York. Eddie says Herb Jones, Eason would be a great pickup. Yeah, I'm glad you agree, Eddie. We need some grittiness, some more toughness. Now, these guys, they can punch above their weight. I'll give them that. They fought like underdogs, but I don't want to be underdogs no more. I want to go into the series where the other team fears us. Not just from a skill set perspective, but a physicality and a fight perspective as well. Maybe you bring in one big man that's more of an enforcer type, and you bring in a couple of really rugged perimeter guys. But I feel like we need some shooting as well. Bring Landry Shamet back, DeLon Wright. I'd be happy to bring those two back. Maybe DeLon Wright just takes Cam Payne's veterans minimum spot. Landry Shamet can stick around for some shooting if he's going to get played. And so I think Precious will probably dip. PJ Tucker will go on a sign and trade. Bring in a couple of really solid role players. That'll help. But if you can't get a Giannis, you can't get a KD, you don't have to get too crazy. I think we've still got some time. We've still got some time with this squad being younger, but some roles need to get corrected, man. Tom Thibodeau is just too. He's too pro Josh Hart. We all know what Hart can do great. Hart's been a warrior. No doubt people are going to be harsh on Josh Hart right now because he's had a really down series and a pretty down playoffs, to be honest. But I feel like he's just in the wrong role. You could blame the coach, and I think deep down Josh Hart knows that. Think about this. Why is he the one to actually go to the coach and say, Coach, I'm okay coming off the bench. We need to make an adjustment. The fact that the player is going to the coach to say that says everything you need to know. Ain't nobody want to give up a starting spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. They want to play. But the fact that Hart was able to go to Tibbs and say, no, we need to do something, that's a black mark on Tibbs. Big time. And I respect Hart for that, because like I said, not many players want to give up a starting spot, man. The guy's under contract. He doesn't have to worry about free agency. He's got 2 more years guaranteed. But he's all about team first. He knows whatever's going to help the team win, and he knows getting overplayed. But at the end of the day, Hart's a great spark plug, energy guy off the bench. I think he could be a 6-man candidate. Everybody respects Josh Hart from that perspective. But when he's playing 36 minutes and having to run some offense and being left wide open because he can't space it, then you got problems. Steven Adams and Malik Beasley, says Emmanuel. Josh is the glue guy. We can't let him go. I like those suggestions. I like it. Eddie also says we need players who can play above the rim and finishes on the break. Yeah, and please nobody suggest Zion, man. I'm done with Zion. I was never a big Zion guy, but I know he's CAA. I know there's connections with Leon Rose. I hope that does not become a possibility because I would still choose Karl Anthony Towns over Zion, man. I know Zion been in the news recently. Not going to focus on that. But yeah, he's got a lot of things to... Zion has to prove a lot of people wrong. He has to play. He has to stay healthy. And his contract is bad as well. At least Cat's playing, man. Imagine overpaying for a player like Zion and he never plays. That'd be like Xavier McDaniel all over again, man. Sorry, McDice. That'd be like Antonio McDice. Yeah, Juan V says Zion has too many issues. Time came and went with that. Dermot says good season, maybe missing some three-point shooting and a backup point. Yeah, I feel like we're good enough to get to the finals. It was a missed opportunity. Our roster, even our roster right now today, is good enough, but we blew game one, and hopefully we'll never see a collapse like that ever again. One's too many. The collapse we had to endure to see game one, I don't wish that on my worst enemy, man. Even the team that I hate the most. That should just never happen in sports. It was a catastrophic failure from top to bottom, from coaching to the players, and lack of adjustment, lack of awareness of the situation. And credit to Indiana, they took advantage of that. I gave them credit in the post-game game one, but that should never happen, man. Neesmith had the game of his life in that moment. 6 threes in the fourth quarter. But I said this earlier tonight. I think this team lacks some IQ as well. Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, I'm looking at you. Right, those guys got some skills, but they're not smart, man. They play the game 100 miles an hour, and they're not able to process what's happening, man, around them. So get some heady veterans around here. What do you guys think about this? CP3. Basic confirmation in the media that CP3 is not going to return to San Antonio. Where is he going to choose for his next destination? I think he'll obviously want to compete. He helped out Wemby for that 1 year, but they're trying to win now. They've got Fox. They've got Stephon Castle, who they need to prioritize. And I think, CP3's had the relationship with Leon. Maybe that'll be a relationship that gets rekindled. So yeah, I feel like, McDice, man, buzzer, the Zion situation, that'll warrant firing if Leon Rose kicks the tires on Zion, man. Yeah, Angel says I'd take CP3 over Cam. The thing is, we've got Kolek, so I understand if we don't want to waste money by, getting too many point guards that block the growth of our guys. Huck Porty should be third string. He'll get opportunities. Great to see him in Summer League coming up. Great to see him healthy now. I think we could have used Huck Porty a little bit in this series for size. Precious didn't play enough in this series as well. I thought Precious was a great matchup for Siakam. By the way, I haven't seen the MVP. I'm going to assume it's Halliburton, but I feel like Siakam had 3 great games, and that's probably too many, right? You're going to get 1 great Siakam game, but the fact that we let him have 3 great games was too much. I think Precious guarded Siakam really well. Not a great matchup for OG because Siakam's got the size and he kind of can be a little bit evasive as well. Yeah, a lot of pressure on OG because, you know, foul trouble. He's have to use his physicality to make up for a lot of the players' weaknesses. And I feel like Mikal Bridges can't be the point of attack next season, especially with two weak defenders like JB and Cat. So, again, I'm going to say this again tonight. You got Mikal, you got Jalen Brunson, and you've got Cat. Three of those guys, I think one of those is going to have to go, in my opinion. Bridges hasn't been forceful enough on D to help OG make up for the weaknesses of JB and Cat. And on the other side, if you want to keep Mikal, but you need to bring in another big name, or you need to get better defensively, then JB and Mikal can coexist, and you trade Cat. But yeah, it's going to come down to Mikal or Cat. AP salute agrees. Rice says, does Bridges do anything well? He does, but not consistent enough. I mean, gotta be honest and say that he did help us in the Boston series. With some key stops, stepping up in big games. But unfortunately, when the game had big moments, he didn't step up as well. Look at the game in game 4. Fading away, shying away from contact. We don't need that. That goes against what we need in the worst way, because Jalen Brunson and Cat, they're not physical creatures. They're not physical type players. They're guys that are finesse. They're finesse guys. We need to tip the scales the other way. We need more physicality and we need more size. The fact that Mikal couldn't really slow down Halliburton is enough evidence for me. The fact that he can't really back him down is a problem for me as well. I know Buzzer has an issue with the way Cat can't post up certain smaller guys, but I feel like that's more about his center of gravity. But in terms of Mikal Bridges, that's just about physicality. He can't post up Tyrese Halliburton. That's a problem right there. How about this name? I know this name is going to be talked about a lot. You guys might know him. You might know his game. You might be familiar with his game. Donte DiVincenzo. Right. He had an up and down stint with Minnesota. He's going to be gettable, I feel. I don't feel like he's going to be untouchable from Minnesota perspective. Do you try to swap one Villanova guy out and get the other one back? Or do you find a way to reunite all 4 Villanova guys? Right. I'm just trying to think, get into Leon Rose's head. I'm trying to think about what he's thinking right now. Maybe he's trying to win the PR situation and say, look, if I can get all 4 Villanova guys, that could be something. But Donte knows the environment. He knows the situation. The big ragu. His stock might have dropped a little bit. I don't know how you keep him. You're probably going to have to trade a Mikal, definitely. Or if you keep Mikal, you're going to have to trade a pick, Miles McBride, possibly. But yeah, I think Donte would help this squad. Obviously, the deep range shooting is something we really, really missed. Right. Now that the season's over, I don't think anybody should sugarcoat it. We did miss Donte DiVincenzo's above the break shooting. That's something Mikal Bridges just never offered for us. He was decent in the corners, mid-range, solid, but especially in terms of physicality and contact, Mikal Bridges was a downgrade. Donte, he defends physically. Also, he's a dog. He'll step to somebody. He will, rise above big games. He'll get the crowd fired up, show some emotion, man. Some of these players, they just didn't, they didn't seize the moment, man. They didn't capitalize in certain situations. I feel like there's going to be some stuff come out. Obviously the locker room. I think there's respect among all of these guys, but I do think there's some. I do feel like there's some fractions in terms of some clicks in that locker room. But at the end of the day, they all played for each other. I feel like it didn't really become, harmful in terms of big games, but just the inability to hold each other accountable from the coach. Towns should have been benched in moments. Hart should have been benched as well. You had OG trying to police Karl Anthony Towns on some rotations, cussing him out on the bench as well. I think a roster just full of weaknesses in terms of defensively hurt the Knicks big time. Paula says Deuce is not it. We need some toughness as well. On a side note, Juan says another ball handler, defensive point guard, like Alonzo type. Yeah, I think that's something as well we could look at. Another ball handler, another shooter, point of attack defender as well. Definitely call up Houston Rockets, in my opinion, fam. If I'm Leon Rose, and I know a lot of groundwork would have been done, so don't worry. I think these guys have been watching all the playoffs. Leon Rose is definitely a aggressive president. Look at the moves that we made. I think he's definitely going to make plenty of moves. Which ones, I don't know. But if I'm him, I'm definitely calling up the Houston Rockets right now, because I know they're on the cusp of trying to contend. They could do with a Mikal Bridges. I think a Mikal Bridges could really, really help a Houston Rockets squad. And I do think a Tari Eason would fit like a glove on this kind of roster as well. A 6'9", 6'10", defend all 5 positions, great ball handler, run a fast break. He's a turbocharged Josh Hart, but with extra size. I think we could do with him. Call up Chicago, see if you could get Dalen Terry. He's a good wing defender as well. Rangy. He's kind of like similar to a Mikal Bridges, maybe less offensive minded, maybe stronger defensively. You could get him for the right price. Dame, it would be a no for me. See, the thing about Deuce, and I see some mixed feelings around Deuce. I feel like Deuce is a player that you need to judge based on his contract, but he's on a really friendly contract, but the time is ticking. We got 1 more year before he's in a free agent year. So you have to be careful about managing that asset, because Deuce McBride is an asset. He's an asset that, 30 teams would love to have on their team, but he's being underpaid. So how long can you hold on to him before you have to actually pay him? And how much can you pay him if we're over the second apron? So Deuce the player, it's a yes for me to keep, but Deuce the contract, you're going to have to really look at, maybe selling high if you are worried about losing him. Calvinist says it. Deuce, for what he can give us, is cheap. Definitely need a taller ball handler next to him, though. Yeah, I think him next to DeLon Wright was pretty solid. Definitely him next to Campaign was a failure in this one. And so we've got to look at that. Kolek's not a strong defender on the perimeter as well, guys. So how many undersized, softer offensive and defensive players can we keep? We need to balance it out. That's why I said go get Tari Eason, go get Herb Jones. We've already got Kolek. He's not strong defensively. Deuce is undersized. Brunson, Cat. Teams are picking us apart. If I had to make a prediction, if the Knicks had qualified for the finals, I think Oklahoma, man, would have sent us packing in 5. Maybe 6. If we shot well, maybe we took a game. Maybe we were able to extend the series and take 2 games at MSG. But, it was going to be tough. It was going to be tough against Oklahoma, man. We definitely need some more taller wing defenders here. So, yeah, one of Mikal or Cat for me. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it. But OG has been a success this season. Mitchell Robinson, has been a success. Mikal Bridges, no. Brunson, success. McBride, a success. Josh Hart, probably break even. Big moments in the season and then a down postseason. DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet, they're fine. Bring them back. Dardier, let's see what Dardier has, man. It's so funny to think back on opening night that Pacome Dardier was in the starting lineup. I don't know what happened. Maybe Thibodeau really liked what he saw in the training camp preseason. I can't remember if there was somebody injured, but I remember it was a surprise at the time. But the fact that the fact that Tom Thibodeau saw Pacome Dardier all summer and preseason and decided to start him versus the Boston Celtics on opening night, that tells you there's something there. You know, that tells you that there's something there with Pacome Dardier. So hopefully he takes another leap. We need some of these rookies to pop. That's really going to help us financially. Juan V says Deuce needs to play off ball, but you can't have him dribbling and setting up an offense. And move him like we did with IQ while it's worth something. Yeah, says Angel with Deuce. So yeah, I can understand both sides, you know. Obviously we're trying to compete. So my heart tells me just keep Deuce McBride for one more year. Worry about the free agency when it comes to it. Because he's such a dependable piece. But again, if you're making a real upgrade or you're calling up Houston and maybe you're trying to get one of those guys, you know, one of their guys that you can really use, that's something as well. Gray's in the house. As CT, you have the best post-game show. Thanks for the year through the Knicks season. Though the Knicks season was a failure, you're a success. Salute to you. Salute to you, and definitely love the passion, the grit, the love of the fan base. We're all together in this, man. Ride or die with the New York Knicks. I'm no flip-flopper. You know, to stick with a team that hasn't had a lot of success for this long. We clearly love our team. We see a lot, you know, in this organization, this team that we stick with. We want to see win, man. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. This season, I'm going to say it was a step in the right direction. I don't think it was a failure because I feel like you're going to take this and build. You're going to take these steps and keep building. However, I think losing to Indiana in a conference finals is a failure. With the context, you know, I think Eastern Conference Finals was the goal. You know, was the bare minimum heading into the season, and they achieved that. But you lose to the Pacers, that's a failure. You know. Michael says, I have a question. If you trade Cat or Bridges or Deuce or all three, are we getting back to the Eastern Conference Finals? That's a great question, man, but it's hard to say either way. You know, every season has a mind of its own. You know, next season we might not have as much injury luck, or next season we might have a clean road pathway straight to the Eastern Conference again with no Boston. I agree with your sort of question, Michael, about I don't want to break this thing up too much because then you start to really play around too much with, you know, maybe guys like Brunson and whatnot get disillusioned. You know, you got this far, you got to keep building. But I do think you need to trade at least one major piece because it's clearly not enough to overcome one of the final hurdles, you know. I feel like, you know, you could get the most value for a Mikal Bridges or a Karl Anthony Towns outside of the other guys that you don't want to trade. Rice is like to see that smothering Naismith, Shepard, Nemhard on SGA. They won't be able to look at him the wrong way before there's a whistle. You said it. I was really keen to see how the NBA Finals are going to be officiated. I feel like they're going to allow a lot more physicality, though. Juan says 2 of those rookies need to step up next year. Yeah, I think they will. They've had a lot of opportunities in the G League this season, sitting on the bench for a deep playoff run. I think Kolek looked pretty sharp late in the game. He seems to, you know, the moment doesn't phase him. He can call plays. He can, get players organized. I want to see Kolek, definitely. And look, that's why I think Thibodeau's been a failure. And I think most of you agree. He didn't use the regular season enough and the preseason enough to bring these guys along. And nor do I have any faith that Thibodeau would give those guys enough opportunities either. I mean, if anything, this victory, Indiana over the Knicks, could be an organizational triumph over the Knicks organization, because Indiana, look how many players they drafted, man. Benedict Mathurin, they drafted they got Neesmith, they drafted Nemhard, Jarris Walker, Miles Turner's their OG. They had a lot of patience. They stuck with a lot of their guys. They traded Sabonis to get Halliburton, the right fit for them. Let's see how it plays out. But I'm keen to know your thoughts. If it's Mikal Bridges out or Cat out, if it's one or the two, let us know who you think. Who would you prefer to keep? Who would you prefer to see what we could get? Juan says also, if they keep Tibbs, I don't see any different results. He's too stubborn. And AP says, definitely CT. This was my second season here, and I feel it was a failure as well. You built for the Celtics, and then you lose to Indy. You cannot lose to that rival. You put it like that, man, and I appreciate you. That's a great way to say it. I feel like you build for one team, and then you end up losing to the other one. It's kind of crazy. But I think inconsistency just killed us, If they came into game 1 and 2 with the right mindset that, hey, we just beaten Boston, this Indiana team, they can't hang with us. You come out, we have home court for the first time in 25 years or 20 years, in the ECF, and you give up the first 2 games, that's a failure on the coach and the players, what's home court for? You just give it away. And then not only that, to add salt into the wound, you're up by 17 and you still lose, man. I can't comprehend that, man. So it was a grand failure in terms of that. Johnny says, CT, if the Knicks lost game 7 in the finals, would the season still be a failure? Man, it would. It would. So yeah, great point. To me, it would. People see it differently. But yeah, you get that far, it hurts, If you get this far, it's a failure because it hurts, because you're so close, you're so close. The bounce of the ball, a right decision here and there, and you can do it. But I always say, man, the NBA is the hardest league to win. 30 teams, 29 teams are unsuccessful. Only one team wins, no matter what happens. You could come within 1 point. They only give out 1 trophy, man. And it's back to the drawing board for the rest of the guys. And so, but there is positives. There is time, there is steps that we can build with this squad, Think about how many seasons, guys, where we got eliminated and you just felt so like there was so much cloud over the future in terms of, man, we got to trade this guy. We got to do that. We got to get another star. We got to blow it all up. I don't feel like that right now. I don't feel like we have to make wholesale changes. We have to make the right changes. But I don't think this is the first year in a long time where we're obviously eliminated. And I don't feel like we don't have to shake it all up. Obviously, the coach starts first. Maybe you trade one of the key members of the starting 5. You upgrade that with a better fit. And you move Josh Hart to the bench. And you're instantly in a better position, in my opinion. You're stronger in the starting 5, ideally with shooting, defense, and you're stronger on the bench with Josh Hart, in the preferred position. Angel says, CT salute, great season, cooler heads will prevail. We didn't live up to our potential. Good night, y'all. Appreciate it, Angel, and a salute to you. Let's get it. Only up from here. The East is going to be, wide open next season, man. We here, and we ain't going anywhere. But yeah, this season was a missed opportunity, man. But it was a hell of a ride, man. Very gratifying to beat Boston. That was the target we set out, but we overlooked the Indiana Pacers, man. So the front office is going to have to wear on that, the coach and the players. But man, tonight, as Rye says, Reggie has satisfied his trolling bug going forward, or is he our analyst until 2050? So yeah, first time I'm saying this tonight, but farewell TNT. I won't miss them, but I think the same show is going to be sticking together on the next network. But man, was tonight difficult, man. Reggie on the call with Stan. It was brutal, man. It was brutal, man. I would have loved to take it to a 7 and sink it into Reggie at MSG, but look, we didn't do what was necessary, man. Congrats to Indiana. Game 1 and 2 was it. That was the series, man. None of the other games really mattered at the end of the day. Every other team did what they had to do. Indiana won all their games that they needed to at home. We won the game 3 to extend, but we didn't win game 1 and 2. D. Grant, CT, I'm not so sure about that. I think the Pacers were simply better than the Knicks. They were better in ways, yeah, better coached. So yeah, I could see changes happening. I just feel personally I don't need for this team to shake it all up. But yeah, there are serious questions over Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns, in my opinion. Now there are questions over Jalen Brunson as well. I'm not, given a free pass to any player, but if you're to win an NBA championship, I think it's non-negotiable that you need a player like Jalen Brunson. At least you need a player like him to build around. He's shown that he is now a generational talent, a generational scorer offensively. Now you have to do your best to hide his defensive weaknesses, and he has to be better in ball distribution as well, and some decision making let him down with 5 turnovers tonight. But I feel like Brunson's just fatigued. But obviously, it's a very heliocentric offense that I'm not a fan of with Thibodeau. You had all season to run plays for Bridges, get him active. OG stepped it up offensively this season. I think one of the sneaky, underrated positives of the season was the 15 games Jalen Brunson was out. For some fans, that might not be underrated. That could be all they're looking at. But it's positive that if we don't need to rely on Brunson as much as people think. We were able to be above 500 when Brunson was out. So that's the blueprint for next year, fam. No excuses if JB misses any games. We can't just be like, oh, Brunson was out. We're close to a max roster now in terms of a second apron. So you have to be able to function if Brunson's out. All these other guys are getting paid. So hopefully that's something that continues. If Brunson misses any games, we need to have a plan and get the other guys going. Shez V says, I'm actually happy for Obi. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any saltiness towards Obi. I'll look at it like he got what he needed. The organization actually helped him out. Leon Rose traded him to a team where they could use him, and we only got 2 second-round picks. We could have sent him to Siberia, or Utah. I'm sure we could have got a better deal. I know his stock was down because Tibbs killed Obi Toppin's stock, but 2 second-round picks was a killer. We could have done with having Obi come off the bench for us. AP says tired of watching Tibbs. Yeah. lose to a lower seed. Old head, great to see you, man. Chin up, chest out. Knicks had a strong season and again took a step forward. Old head, great to hear from you, man. Yeah, look, like I said, I feel disappointed how it ended, but I'm certainly not down on how the season played out because a lot of things that we tried and we attempted actually paid off. We built a roster so we could take down Boston, and we did that. But lack of execution, decisions killed us. Coaching as well against Indiana. Ardaman Singh salutes as Cat, Bridges, and Tibbs got to go. I agree with two of those three. I don't know if you're going to be able to move all three. Tibbs definitely. For me, Cat and Bridges, one of those two. I thought we saw enough from Cat offensively that he can be a difference maker, but I just think he was criminally underutilized by Tom Thibodeau. My biggest concern with Cat is IQ and defense. It's really, really worrying from an IQ perspective. Even tonight, he's trying to hook a guy when he's literally just been interviewed by TNT about giving up dumb fouls. So yeah, I understand why fans are frustrated right now. Old heads is Kolek, McCullough, and Huck Porty will shine next season. Yeah, buy stock right now, guys. Those guys will be helpful, no doubt. D. Grant agrees. Looking at Pacome Dardier, Kevin McCullough to step it up. Yeah, that's a good way to step up. Actually playing and investing in players that you selected. Look at Oklahoma right now. Look at Indiana. I think the blueprint's changed. That there's no more LeBron, superstar, big three, free agency, all of that. You have to have some of your team organic. Organic meaning homegrown, drafted. I want Mitch to stay, but I could understand if the front office is thinking, look, we draft a big man, we have Cat, we have Huck Porty, maybe we could use, the funds allocated otherwheres, but I would still keep Mitch, no doubt. But the front office is drafting players. They have to make sure that they eventually graduate and come into the starting lineup, or a key rotation player like Mitch and Deuce. That's definitely something that's paid off, man. Think about if we never drafted Mitch or we never drafted Deuce, we'd be screwed because those guys are on decent contracts. D says, CT, the Celtics offense is easy to read. They shoot from the perimeter and the Knicks did a good job containing them, but the Pacers run you to death. Knicks not fast enough to keep up. Yeah, I feel like styles make fights, and Indiana was a harder matchup from a stylistic perspective. But I feel like the Knicks had enough to win the series. I just feel like Thibodeau didn't play to his strengths. Like look at the final 4 games of the series, fam. It was 2-2. We blew the first 2 games, and the final 4 games of the series was still 2-2. And guess what? Because Thibodeau started playing Landry Shamet, he started playing DeLon Wright, he started playing guys that maybe he was forced to play. He should have been doing that earlier. Maybe we probably wouldn't have blown 1 and 2. Maybe we would have only blown one of those games. But I feel like Leon Rose or whoever let the malpractice just continue, because this team was winning games, but I think it was that in spite of whatever Thibodeau was doing. Thibodeau, probably did push some right buttons throughout the season, but I feel like this team's talent just prevailed to win enough games to keep Thibodeau in the job. But yeah, I feel like Leon Rose really has to look at this roster he built and say, is the coach that I extended, is he the guy that got the most out of this roster? Because there are ways we could have slowed Indiana down, man. Like tonight, for example, I'm going to say it. Mitch shouldn't have started. Indiana only beat you one way. The whole world knows it, and that's to push the pace and run. And Thibodeau goes big. He goes big against a team that's only chance to beat you is to run. We got blown out in game 4, and he does it again in game 6. We got blown out again. Literally, we could score a bucket. They just passed the ball up the court for an open layup. Right? How is Mitchell Robinson helping you with the two bigs? Deuce McBride definitely should have started. Deuce McBride should have started the game tonight, man. That's a classic case of Thibodeau watching a game that happened in game 4 and not readjusting. Not adjusting to what the game is actually saying. Yeah, Paul Pierce celebrating, man. To hell with that guy, man. Don't really care about these guys. I'm just looking within, man. This is our circle. Worry about us. Don't worry about the haters. Don't worry about what these clowns are saying, right? Paul Pierce is only hate watching because his team is out of here. But right now, the Knicks prove a lot of people wrong. But we have to shake off some of the perception as well, because Thibodeau continues that stigma on the organization with overplaying guys, lack of adjustment. I mean, you see some of these media people, they were dumbfounded that he started playing DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet this late, And I think that the Detroit series was the warning sign. Eddie says slow. Buzzer says, what is Dolan thinking now? I'm guessing Dolan's thinking that we need a new coach, But I think Dolan would be okay with getting as far as we did in terms of getting another home game. Financially, this season would have been a big success for the New York Knicks, this postseason run. But obviously, we want to get further, man. We want to get to the next step. Joshua says, we overachieved in all honesty this season, all year long. All we displayed was an alarming amount of inconsistencies all across the board. I don't know where we go from here. I agree with the overachieving element, in spite of some of the bad decisions Tibbs was making. But yeah, he has his reasons. A lot of coaches are stubborn. There's probably some things Pacer fans don't like about Carlisle. But yeah, it's all about just looking at the tape and getting better, fam. Just start from there. Look at the data and look at we got as far as we did because we're capable. We fell short because of this, because we messed up. IQ has to get better as well. But yeah, rotations were a letdown. I mean, Hart continuing to play starters minutes was ridiculous. I think we learnt that this season. Horrible 3-point defense. AP, agree. That's one of the worst things about Thibodeau. Continues to have guys in drop, and if they continue to spite him, why is he playing them, man? Do like I said earlier tonight, Popovich, bench the guys. I don't care who they are. If you're not helping the team, you're hurting the team. You have to get benched, man. Emmanuel says, what happened to switching on the pick and rolls? It worked in our victories. Your lack of detail, You only have to listen to a Thibodeau press conference to know what's the breakdown. Like, the guy just keeps saying very vague things like, oh, but, the player has to make the read, the player has to adjust, the player has to do this. No, you have to tell them, man. Like, be 100% clear, right? No drop, switch, or hedge. The messaging's not clear at times, and also the players, they keep talking about communication. Every time we win, they're like, oh yeah, communication was great. Whenever we lose, oh yeah, we got to communicate more. Communication broke down. It's like that can't be an excuse because these guys are trying to compete for a title and they're all multi-millionaires. That's on the coach. Sam in the building. Great to see you, man. Sam says, sad part about this is off-season won't be a cakewalk. We only have one tradable first rounder and guys will have to be moved for this new CBA. Please develop the young guys. Yeah, I like the last part. Develop some of the guys. I talked about earlier with Dardier starting on opening night, and then he was barely used throughout the season. I mean, I think I saw enough from Dardier on defense to think that he could be as good, if not better, than Mikal Bridges. I might be wrong, right? Obviously, a larger sample would prove that right or wrong. But based on what my eyes tell me, man, Pacome Dardier looked decent on defense. At times, Mikal Bridges was below decent for a player that was supposed to be a strong defender as well. But yeah, we do have something in Dardier. Let's focus on him. Kolek, Hukpority. McCullough might be more of that wild card. He's shown some flashes in the G League, but he can't stay healthy right now. I mentioned earlier, we got the draft coming up. The Knicks do have a pick. It's the 50th pick overall. The Knicks could use some cash, maybe trade the pick and move up. The Knicks could buy another pick and maybe make a few second-round picks. Like Sam mentioned, we're going to have to figure a way to add more depth, maybe some specialists for this squad so that we don't hurt ourselves with the finances. It would be a shame to have to trade a good player just for financial reasons, Look, Cat is making a lot of money, man. He might be the guy that needs to go. But if we are adding some draft picks, a shooter, a wing defender would be great. And ideally a player with size, not an undersized player, We have enough 6'1" point guards. We have enough 6'4" wings, man. AP says Mikal Bridges was disappointing this season. Yeah, you know what? Overall, I think Mikal Bridges was underwhelming. Yeah, disappointing, underwhelming for what I thought. Everyone's expectations might have been different, but I must admit, I didn't watch every single Brooklyn game, and I didn't watch all of his Phoenix games. But maybe the perception of Mikal Bridges was better than what he actually is. Maybe he took 1 year leap, and everyone thought that he was going to, take that next step. Then he went to Brooklyn, and then he regressed. Maybe this is just what he is. It's crazy. You look at that draft. We were like, should we get Miles Bridges? Should we get Mikal Bridges? Those guys are great. We end up with Kevin Knox. It's look like all of those guys are a bust right now. Well, Mikal not really a bust, but not really what his ceiling projected. We know Miles Bridges definitely a bust right now, dealing with off-court issues. Never took that leap. Kevin Knox, we know, is on a 10-day, unguaranteed deals. That's drafting in a nutshell, fam. Look at Nembhard, Neesmith with these guys. Emmanuel, Rick Brunson is head coach. I've seen this a lot. I don't see it happening for the main reason that I feel like Rick Brunson is more comfortable as an assistant. And I feel like for Thibodeau to be the scapegoat to promote Rick Brunson, I just don't see that dynamic. If Tibbs wasn't our coach and it was somebody else, I could see maybe Rick Brunson, taking over, but not from Tibbs. I think the relationships there are too tight. Buzzer says it, man. Not having a player fall back to prevent leakouts was beyond me. Yeah, that was crazy as well. But also, what about the Mikal Bridges fallbacks? The guy shot like... I've got to pull it up, man. How many free throws? Guess how many free throws do you think Mikal Bridges shot for the entire season? I'll look it up, but I know it's not many, man. For 90 plus 100 games, man, I'll be surprised if the guy shot more than 30 free throws. You know, Sam says Knicks can't afford to regress. 3 unprotected picks all going to Brooklyn in the upcoming years. Yeah, I think the biggest issue people have is the 2031. But I did the math. Jalen Brunson will be 34 years old. I don't. It might hurt us at that point, but I don't think we'll be bad enough where it'll be a top 10 pick. I might be wrong, but I think Brunson at 34 years old should still be, an all-star caliber player, fam. So I think outside of that, the 27 and the 29 picks, I'm not really worried about because the Knicks will be. I mean, the Knicks should be a top 4 seed, but it's that 2031, that's 6 years from now. 5 to 6 years from now, Brunson will be 34, 35. It'll be interesting to see what we do. But look, worst case scenario, we're going to rebuild and tear it down. We'd trade Brunson, we'd end up getting that pick back. If the world came to a point where you needed to trade some stars to rebuild again, you could trade for the rights for your pick back. So that's one of the main reasons I'm not too worried about that 2031 pick as well. Gangstar says we need a passer. Nobody wants Cat right now. You would have to attach some picks at least, man. Maybe Cat and an asset like Michi or Deuce. But yeah, man, it's tough. I don't see us getting Giannis for Cat. I just don't. I think we could definitely get in on the KD sweepstakes, whether it be a Mikal Bridges, Deuce McBride, picks, some salary filler. But yeah, I think it's going to be a case of Giannis is going to be that major prize, man. But I think other teams are going to blow us out of the water. Like, look at some of the deals Oklahoma can offer. Look at some of the assets Houston Rockets have got. Houston Rockets, they got Jabari Smith. They got the rookies. They got Jalen Green. They got Tari Eason. They've got picks. They're prime to try to get a superstar, man. No state taxes. I am hearing that Giannis really likes the New York market. However, he also is attracted to a state with no taxes, So there could be Orlando, could be San Antonio, or it could be Houston. Dallas, I doubt it. Obviously, Dallas are good right now with Kyrie, Cooper, and Kyrie and AD. Sorry, but yeah, look out for Houston, man. But yeah, Oklahoma is going to be scary, man. They're going to be tough to beat for years because you're about to win a chip possibly, and you got enough assets to trade for another star, and their core is super young. As well. So yeah, I feel like we do need a Giannis type to guarantee that we can beat an Oklahoma. Anything less than that, and it'll be basically a toss-up. Jazzman says Tibbs supposed to hang his hat on D. Really? I think 2 out of the starting 5 is really poor defenders. So, but his schemes were slow to adapt and adjust. The 3-point shooting just killed us this season. AP says, do you think Tibbs was on board with the Cat trade, and do you think him and Leon are on the same page? Are we blaming the wrong guy? Man, that's a question that's a great question. I think Thibodeau would have some level. I think he would have some level of buy-in, fam. Now, doesn't mean he's completely on board. We know Thibodeau loved Julius, but obviously, financially, things come to a head. Sometimes the runway just runs out. And in terms of Julius, he was soon to be a free agent. Yeah, they could have stuck it out, kept it together for one more year. But I think selling Julius at the stock that he had, I don't think his stock was going to get any higher. It could have possibly got lower. And so to get Cat in there, I'm okay with that. But in terms of was Thibodeau on board of getting Cat, I think there was talk that he was for it because, I mean, he kind of gave the okay because he coached Cat earlier and he was open to a reunion and he told Leon that yeah, I could make this work. I do think Mitchell Robinson missing, November, December, January, February, was obviously hurtful. 4 months of Mitch would have helped us a lot more, but our record started quite strong. It hurt us mostly in the playoffs. So I think Cat's not a Tibbs player, but obviously maybe the organization thinks just for 1 year we'll try this out and we'll move Cat back to the 4. But I think it was more about getting off of Julius, to be honest, or trying to get, like for like all-star caliber player back for another all-star caliber player. Because you're trying to contend. So there aren't many teams that would have taken Julius that are trying to contend, if we're being honest. And pulling off trades is very difficult because of the CBA and how the other team's finances look. So if you're able to get another all-star back for Julius Randle, even though that player has their own flaws, like I said, Cat's under contract. I don't think it was a bad move, but it's up to Towns and the Knicks to make sure that they figure out a way to make it work. Because you were going to lose Julius to free agency if you didn't pay him right now. And look how he played in the end of the playoffs. He had a great series against LA, but Julius did struggle against Oklahoma as well, in the double teams, making the right reads as well. Personally, I do think they both have their flaws. They have great skills, but I put Cat and Julius in a similar category where they're very low IQ players, man. I think their IQ / demeanor does hurt their teams at times. You see Cat, losing focus, defensive assignments, and you see him lapse on defense, complain about the whistle. Exactly the same thing, man, with Julius. Julius's game, his head can leave the game in a second whenever he gets into it with somebody or he gets benched, and he's just as likely to lose his defensive assignment as well. So yeah, I know everyone wants to know who won the trade. Was it Minnesota? Was it the Knicks? I feel like slight edge is to the Knicks, and I'm not just saying this honestly because I'm a Knicks fan. I do feel like there's a pathway the Knicks can move forward with Karl-Anthony Towns. If you ask any Minnesota fan right now, most of them will say they can't really see a pathway with Julius Randle to winning a championship. And look, I don't want to sink the boot into Julius. Like I said, he can be a great piece, but I think Julius is more of a third option on a championship team. Whereas I do think Karl-Anthony Towns could be a second option on a championship team if the team built around him is built smart, in terms of size, defense, and to make up for his weaknesses. But yeah, I think the Knicks did win the trade still because we were going to lose that asset. If we decided we weren't going to extend Julius and we were out on Julius, we needed to get something in return. And I don't know what else you could have got in terms of the stock that Julius had. Cat's a player that we see, like we're not even in this situation if Cat didn't dominate Game 3. Cat dominated the Detroit Pistons stretches. He dominated Game 3. Yes, his lapses are maddening, but he's just inconsistent. He's just an inconsistent kind of player. AP agrees, yet we won that. Paula says, yet they both have low IQs, horrible defense. And Calvinist says, we won that trade for sure, plus our contracts have more value. Yeah, I think there's stability that you can build around, Whilst we still might end up trading Cat, there is at least stability, knowing we can run it back. And if we make a couple of moves, we could get further. Minnesota, I don't want to sound too down on them, but I think the road ends where they ended up. I mean, they had to overcome. Look at, Denver got knocked out by OKC. They might not have the same amount of luck. But also Anthony Edwards, man, he has a lot to prove. Anthony Edwards has a lot to prove still in terms of his growth, his processing of the game. And I just think him and Julius together, not able to get it done, man. Julius is a fine offensive player, but can he be the second option on a championship team? If you have to pay him $35 million plus, that's just going to hurt you, building around these guys. Juan B says the Knicks won that trade but lost a lot of toughness. Great point. Agree. Julius is a tougher player. If you want to look at it from that perspective, I really respect Julius's physical toughness. Unfortunately, mentally, he's not as tough. However, he was a better fit for Tom Thibodeau. So that's another reason we need to trade the coach. Maybe if you keep Tibbs and you keep Julius and you pay Julius, maybe we would have got this far. Maybe we would have even got further. I have my doubts, but Cat is just a far more dominant matchup at his position because he can shoot it from distance and he can drive, finish, and he's skilled as well. If we just went away from the drop coverage, the 3-point game, I think Thibodeau's old school ways in terms of, he's worried about packing the paint. He's all worried about the rebounding. It goes against the new age philosophy where teams are just trying to beat you by 3, And he's banking on them missing 3s so that you can grab the rebound. But guess what? The rebounds don't happen if you're leaving shooters wide open because they're going to hit the 3. Why formulate all your scheme just to grab the rebound when you're leaving shooters open? Man, the NBA is too good now. They're not going to shoot below 40% if you leave guys open, man. You got too many specialists in the league as well. I mean, we had a hard time taking care of Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley, Dennis Schroeder at times because we weren't guarding the 3, And I feel like Cat, he needed to play the 4 earlier. Even before Mitch got back, they should have been playing Precious next to him, or they should have been playing Huck Porty, or they should have gone out at the trade deadline and gotten another guy. Because I wasn't a big Jericho Sims guy. I think that was fine to trade Jericho. Yeah, I think if we get more stable on the perimeter, Mikal Bridges has shown me that he's more of a off-ball defender now. He can do it for stretches, but navigating screens is not his strength. So OG Anunoby is a great help defender as well, weak side defender, and guarding larger guys on the perimeter, but not point guards, not shooting guards. So go out there, look at where we fell short, make some corrections. Like I said, from top to bottom, there will be a full review. There'll be pressure on certain moves to be made. As James Dolan, man, wants to keep this thing going. He wants to keep making good money in the postseason. He wants the Knicks to win as well. We all want to see this team win. This year was a missed opportunity, but I don't think we're going to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Would I have loved to see that series? Absolutely. Would I have loved to give it a shot? No doubt. But I just couldn't see a pathway of us beating Oklahoma, man. We couldn't beat them once. During the season. And I feel like the Boston matchup, if we played each other again, who knows how that series would have gone. I think the Knicks took their chances in game 1 and 2 of the Boston series. Unfortunately, on the flip side, is that this series, the Knicks didn't take their chance in game 1 and game 2, man. And you can never overlook the opponent. It's kind of like Boston overlooked us and we jumped them, man. And I feel like a lot of people overlooked Indiana when the series began. And ultimately, they jumped us, man. And so next year, we can't take anything for granted. We can't, overlook any opponent. Man, you're as good as your last game, right? If you lose home court, you could be done. And so respect, credit to Indiana. Boston next year, we don't know how they're going to look, but I would be very careful to overlook Boston, especially if they do trade Porzingis and Holiday and make some changes. But there should be some level of drop-off until Tatum can return. Outside of that, Cleveland, we didn't ever end up getting to match up against the Cavaliers. Who the heck knows how that series would have gone, man? They were hobbled. Maybe even in a redo, maybe Cleveland defeat Indiana if those guys are healthy. But they might trade some guys. Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen has a similar questions that we have over Karl Anthony Towns. Cleveland might have to change something because you can't win 60-something games and get blown out like that. Kenny Atkinson's got some pressure coming into his second season as well. He'll be the next coach on the hot seat, I think, if they get flamed out again, man. I mean, I would much prefer our position than Cleveland. I would sacrifice winning 69 wins just to keep going in the playoffs. Winning 69-something games and getting blown out is literally, it's deflating. It's, if you're a Cleveland fan, because you think you're good all season and then you get blown out. Whereas with us, we kind of knew this team had some weaknesses. We were optimistic, but we weren't like going into the playoffs like, yeah, we're gonna roll everyone right now, like Cleveland fans would have been thinking. Juan B says, we had the home court, it's still lost. They have to change that coach and make a couple of trades or free agent signings. Reports, Shams and also Brian Windhorst, that this summer, this off-season is going to be full of activity. It's going to be one of the most potentially craziest summers as well. Now, we had the Luka Doncic trade in season. That was crazy. But in terms of activity, with the CBA as well now, draft night, there's a lot of activity on draft night too. I think there'll be a lot of possibilities. I don't feel one way or the other whether the Knicks are going to make a major splash, but I feel like there will be something significant. But I don't think they're not going to rip apart the whole starting five. Like, I think if one player goes, it'll be one major player. Bridges or Cat. Possibly Hart as a salary filler, but if not, Hart will go to the bench. They just traded for Bridges, so I can't really see them giving up on that after 1 year. You're lining yourself up to get fired if you just trade 5 picks for Bridges just to trade him 1 year later. That's a grand failure, and I think Leon Rose's job will be on the line if he does that. Then you look at Karl Anthony Towns and you say, okay, we did that because we needed a center. Julius was, a piece that we had to move out. Maybe they do look at Karl Anthony Towns and say, look, 1 year, it didn't work out. We are going to make some changes with that. Or maybe with a new coach, we try it again. You got Mitchell Robinson healthy now. Man, it's tough to predict. Either way, there's going to be some potentially bold moves, man. Michael says, Dice, what do you think? I think Dice won't get a job over Tibbs because he's a part of Tibbs's team. So I can't see that. Can't see that, man. I think it'll be somebody else. AP says, I hope the Lakers get Zion. Facts, you and me both, man. Salvador says, Giannis KD for Cat, Bridges Hart. Man, that's a blockbuster. I feel like Hart will stay. I feel like Josh Hart will stay. You know, he's such a Swiss Army knife. You know, look at him and his impact off the bench. You know, it'll be phenomenal. He rebounds. He can handle a bit. He doesn't need to play 30 minutes. He could be a 23-minute kind of player, 25-minute. You get more shooting. You'll be okay. Bridges, you seriously have to question what kind of role you see for him for next season, you know. As I pull up the roster right now, look, you've got a Pacome Dardier coming up. Maybe he looks great in the summer and he's ready to take a leap. Maybe you can sell higher on Bridges because he had some decent postseason games, but you're not going to get 5 picks back. You know, it'll be a player that you hope could have similar or better impact on a cheaper contract. But yeah, Dardier, Kolek, Hukpority, man, 2 of those 3 have to step up. Maybe you can use Precious' salary to try to. He's a free agent though, so it'll have to be a sign and trade. But with Precious Achua, he's $6 million. You could sign and trade with PJ Tucker as well. Add some salary there. Yeah, I would bring Shamet. I would bring DeLon Wright back. 2 solid veterans, decent age still, impactful in the playoffs. Keep those guys around. You know, they'll be a part of your depth, together with Mitch, Deuce, Hart off the bench. I'm looking for starting 5 upgrade. Brunson stays, OG stays, Hart goes to the bench. So you have a shooting guard spot you could fill. And one of Cat or Bridges maybe gets swapped for a Kevin Durant or a Giannis. You know, multi-team trades could be big time as well. We could see 3, 4, 5 team trades because all of the teams are stuck in CBA territory, man. So we might see a lot of blockbusters play out with this one. But yeah, my thoughts are I got serious questions over Bridges long term and Cat. I think you keep one of them. I think most likely one of them. I wouldn't be shocked if both end up being moved, but I just can't really see that happening. I think one at max. Hart spot gets upgraded. He goes to the bench. And we'll see how it plays out, fam. Bridges free agency will be something serious to watch with the finances, man. With that said, man, before we wrap it up, let me look at Bobby Marks because he usually puts up the off-season situation, picks and all of that, and he'll give us an off-season look preview. Here we go. Yes, he has. No doubt. Bobby Marks comes through in the clutch. Let's bring this up right now. Shout out everyone in the chat. Knicks die hard, rocking out. Tough night, tough way to go out. Hoping for a Game 7. But the New York Knicks have a lot of questions that need to be answered. Some silver linings, some positives to take out of the season. Ultimately falling short is a failure, though. When you're expected to win a series. So the New York Knicks, here we go. We have the exception. So we have a taxpayer, mid-level, $5.7 million to spend. So that'll be helpful. To what degree? I mean, just for an example, I'm not saying I would do this, but Precious is on $6 million. So you could technically use that to bring him back if you needed. You could split that $5.7 million over 2 players and give them something slightly higher than the minimum. You could use that to sign a Chris Paul, a veteran point guard. That could be another ball handler, bench scorer. You could use that to sign a younger player in free agency that maybe they were hoping to get a bigger bag and they weren't able to get the long-term deal that they were looking for, and maybe you could get them to sign for 1 year and try to inflate their value. So that's something. The Knicks will have that exception that they can spend. We will have a second round pick, and we have the veterans minimums. So that's all we have to improve the squad without a trade, ladies and gentlemen. No cap space. We'll go into the second apron if we add salary to the team, but Precious Achua's money comes off the books. He's an unrestricted free agent. Cameron Payne, unrestricted free agent. I expect him to walk. DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet will be free agents. I expect those guys to have interest in returning, and hopefully that interest is mutual. I would bring those two back. Ariel Hukporti has a team option. The Knicks could pick up that option. Hopefully, he's back with the squad. I don't see any reason he wouldn't unless he's in a trade. But the Knicks could decline Hukporti's second-year team option and sign him to an extended deal, just like we did with Jericho, just like we did with Deuce McBride as well. I've talked about that throughout the season. Don't be shocked if the Knicks decline Hukporti's second-year option just to be able to re-sign him again for a long-term deal. The reason they do that is he was drafted in the second round. You can only offer a second-round pick 2 years. So we gave him the 2-year deal, but smartly, Brock Aller and the team, they gave him a team option in the second year so that we could decline and extend him for hopefully a 4-year cheap deal, man. 4 years, $4 million. Get him, in case he blows up and he's a stud, you've got him for cheap. I'd give Hukporti a 4-year, $4 million deal, 4-year, $6 million, and hope that he becomes something great. And then you've got him locked under contract for 4 years. Anton Watson is on the two-way. Kevin McCullough, two-way as well. Marjon Beauchamp is on the two-way as well. So there are 3 two-ways. I expect those guys to come back unless somebody bigger name comes available. The two-ways don't hurt against your salary cap. McCullough was the draft pick, so I expect him to stick around. Watson, I don't know what's going to happen with him. Marjon Beauchamp, I would love us to keep him around and see if he could take a leap. I know he's been a veteran for a little bit, but he's still a younger player. Maybe he'll be open to playing summer league with the rest of the guys. Won't be surprised. But keep Beauchamp on the two-way. See if he's good in preseason. See if he could take a roster spot, because that's a wing defender that could be something, And of course, PJ Tucker has a team option, which I think the Knicks will keep on ice just in case they need to sign and trade him for a salary matching deal. Reserves under contract. We got Deuce McBride. We got Tyler Kolek. And we got Pacome Dardier, Mitch, and a Hukporti. So there's going to be some roster spots available, but assuming they bring Shamet, DeLon Wright back, those will be some veterans. Old Head says that I would love to see Dante come back. Tendrell says trade Bridges, Precious Payne, keep Wright, Shamet, Cat. Maybe trade Hart, move Tibbs to the nursing home. AP says, is there a veteran who is good, who hasn't won yet, that would take a friendly deal? Yeah, possibly a really older type veteran that's looking to wind their career down but still helpful, or a younger veteran that hasn't quite got the money available to them. Because look, there's a lot of teams that won't have the money available. So the $5.7 million exception, I think, will be a handy way for the Knicks to improve the team. we're not going to eat up all our content right now, but there are going to be free agents. We'll take a look at those guys. I'll tell you who I think could be a worthwhile pickup for 5.7. It's not a lot of money, but it's double the veterans minimum. So you could find someone that could be helpful, man, as a depth piece. You might need to use most of that on somebody like a Shamet to bring him back. You know, if a Landry Shamet has better offers, you know. But yeah, I'm looking at our picks. I'm looking at our current draft pick coming up. We have the 50th overall pick, but I think the Knicks will try to get aggressive. They might try to move up. There'll be some value in the second round, just like we saw this season. Fam, look at Jalen Wells. Look at all these players that you know, have looked decent, man. Huck Porty looks like an NBA rotation player, man. We picked him up 56. A pieces are like all our rookies. Just don't trust Tibbs, to develop. Paula says it's been a great season rocking with you. Had a great time hanging with the chat. We have the Summer League. Paula, 100%. Great to have you with us. Let's keep it going. You know, so much to build on. Like I said, this is the first time we've been eliminated where I don't feel like we need to rip apart the roster. You know, we need to make corrections. We have to make some upgrades, but we are in a good position. We just have to obviously attack it, aggressive. You know, the competition's going to keep getting stronger. We have to strengthen our weaknesses and keep going at what we're good at. You know, let's see. The Bridges extension thing is going to be fascinating. A-Pieces Roker said, forget it. He played in the summer for 3 years. Yeah, I'm not sold on Rokas. I think he could be a handy player. I just don't think he's good enough defensively. Let's go Liberty as well. Shout out. Buzzer says good and team friendly don't go together. There's still diamonds in the rough. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I feel like you could pick up some diamonds in the rough, fam. Look at Landry Shamet. You know, no team in the NBA wanted him or was going to pick him up. He ended up really helping a bit. But, yeah, you've got to get savvy, man. Maybe we missed the boat with your man TJ Warren, man. Maybe TJ Warren will forgive us for leaving him stranded and bring him in. But in terms of Chuma Okeke, I think we upgraded. We got Marjan Beauchamp. You know, you have to see what he can do. You know, he's a proper wing defender with size, 6'8". Out of him or Pacome Dardier, one of those guys has to be a wing or getting minutes. I'm not trying to be you know, be hyperbole right now, but Beauchamp or a Pacome Dardier, we need a 6'8" wing in the worst way. And we've seen how soft Mikal Bridges can be. Give those guys some help. You know, even if they're going to stick around, we need another wing guy. We need somebody gritty as well. I would target Dalen Terry with Chicago. I would look at Tari Eason with Houston as well. I would call up Houston and see how interested they are in Mikal Bridges. He could be a piece for them moving forward. I would definitely call Minnesota. Seeing as though they're trade partners with us, maybe they have an interest in a fit with Mikal Bridges, you know? Maybe Naz Reid could be a guy that they've lost patience with. He had a down postseason, you know. Jazzman says, usually head coaches get fired right away when the season ends. Yeah, pretty much. Could happen anytime, fam. Obviously not going to happen tomorrow. Respectfully going to give these guys time for the dust to settle, things to play out. But usually within a week or two. The draft is the key date to look out for. June 20, I think, is the NBA draft. You want your ducks in a line. You know, you want your front office structure to be, and coaching and the vision to all be aligned. come on the NBA draft. It's one of the most important nights in the NBA when deals take place, picks take place as well. Buzzer says, will you do an end of year recap live stream with stuff like best, worst game, team MVP, etc.? Yes, let's do it. Let's do it, 100%. I can't just turn the lights out and end the season now, man. This thing keeps going. But we'll let the dust settle a little bit. We'll let some news play out. We'll let some sound bites play out. And we'll come on again in a few days, or maybe in another day. We'll start to really look at the season, dissect, and then obviously I want to look more ahead, because I feel like we all know what this season was, man. It was a mixed bag, but we kind of achieved what I felt our ceiling was, Eastern Conference Finals. But the fact that we got here against Indiana is frustrating. You know, if we had got to the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston or Cleveland, I could have said, all right, you know, maybe we lost to a better team, but we should have beat Indiana. You know, we should have beat Indiana, in my opinion. So yeah, loads of off-season shows to come, loads of content still. We're looking at the draft, looking at chopping up the roster as well. We'll do a rookie show and, you know, look at some of our guys in the G League, see what they looked at, you know, with their strengths, weaknesses. We got the Summer League popping in about 4 weeks with free agency as well. Let's keep this thing rolling. You guys have kept the streets buzzing all season. So once again, man, bottom of my heart, thank you for rocking out with us tonight. All season, postseason, whatever it is, man, you guys are the MVP of the season. Not the Knicks, not the players. You guys, the fans, are the MVPs of this situation. The organization, I'm not worried, because they'll keep getting better. They'll keep exploring ways to take that next step. Hopefully they're the right decisions. Let's see how it plays out. We got some generational talents that we haven't had in a long time. Brunson continues to make history. Wasn't his night tonight, but it was an unbelievable run. 10 plus games with 30 points and 5 assists, joining only 4 players in history, Michael Jordan, LeBron, and Shea, to do that. We need to get him some help. We need to get him some more ball handling, some shooting, and diversify the offense. That's a priority, a long list of priorities. Get some more defensive players as well. Start the season with Mitchell Robinson at the 5. Obviously, if Cat's here, he'll play the 4. Move Josh Hart to the bench and make a decision on Mikal Bridges, you know, based on the trade value, potentially. If we could get a solid rotation player, or solid starting 5 player that could replace him and get a pick back, you have to look at that. Hopefully reduce your salary so that you can also make some other moves as well and make the bench stronger. Look at Utah. I'll be looking out at Utah, seeing what we could get maybe for a Walker Kessler or a Colin Sexton. You know, try to get some help at the guard spot and the big man. And defensively, just get more robust. Right now, Indiana aren't a great offensive team, in my opinion, but they picked us apart because of their pace. In the half court, they're not very strong in the half court. I think they got the series of a lifetime out of Pascal Siakam. That's a little bit on us as well. He killed us in Game 7 last year. And I thought Precious Achiuwa could have got some opportunities against him, but Siakam had 3 really good games. And ultimately that tilted the scales. Miles Turner, man, he was up and down. He was poor. Andrew Nembhard was pretty poor as well. So the Knicks should have capitalized. I thought Neesmith was solid defensively. Tyrese Halliburton had his ups and downs, but I can't really look at the Indiana Pacers and say that they outright deserve to be, advancing and beating us. But because of Pascal Siakam, I thought he was probably the biggest difference. in this series, guys. So we'll wrap this thing up. Salute to you. Big up. Chin up, chest out, like Old Head says. The Knicks were the final 3 teams remaining in the league. There's 27 other teams with more problems than we have. So we've got to keep focusing, building on this. Let's see what happens, man. The team will do their exit interviews. They'll go on their vacation, and we'll be back soon, obviously in no time, for Knicks Summer League draft content coming up as well, everyone. So peace out for tonight, and see you again soon, man. Let's go Knicks. Salute.